It's Monday and time for the Back to Business podcast, featuring Calgary's industry leaders. Welcome today's show host, Kim Hayden.
All right, they say mind the gap. It's always the little details that either will help your company soar or fail. So how do we do this? By taking fractional bites out of the gaps within our business. Our guest today, Russ Altman, is here to talk to us about how we can apply great thinkers at a fractional level to grow and scale our own businesses. But first, our land acknowledgement. We here at the Calgary Petroleum Club, in a spirit of reconciliation, honor and acknowledge that the land on which we learn, work, and live is Treaty 7 region of southern Alberta. This place is a traditional homeland for the First Nations and Métis peoples, and today we all are part of this treaty land. Welcome to the show, Russ.
Thank you so much, Kim. It's lovely to be here.
We had a chance. We met at the mixer, the members mixer here at the club, and got started talking. And there's a lot of cool stuff that you're involved in.
Yeah.
So give us a little bit of a rundown. Who is Russ?
Well, I work primarily in the business development realm. I'm the founder of an organization called Red Fox Growth Strategies, and what that is a fractional growth strategies firm, and we provide growth strategies to other businesses, small and medium-sized businesses that are looking to scale, that have encountered some sort of challenge, frustration perhaps. Sometimes it's bandwidth, sometimes it's technological challenges. And so essentially what we do is a bit of an audit to help them find out what exactly the challenge is that they're having. Usually they understand really well what their goal is, but they don't always understand what's preventing them from reaching it.
And that's where, what was the study? ADHD and entrepreneurs goes together like peanut butter and jelly, right? And you just said, they tend to have like one area, they know where they're going, they see that. Do you find that it's a lot of times the systems or maybe that foundation is what's kind of maybe a little soft for companies to be able to scale?
I would say yes, absolutely. A lot of times entrepreneurs are very passionate about what they're good at and what they do, the value that they deliver, but they don't always understand the framework that goes around providing those services. So they might be very good at providing marketing services, for example, or consulting services, but they don't always understand the business development process, or they have been a founder that's been really passionate about what they do. So they've told everyone what they do and they've delivered that value, but then they reach a point where they're so busy, they no longer have time to do the business development aspect. So they just they work extra hours, they just burn themselves out a little bit, and then they decide, okay, something's got to change, and they transition, or they try to transition from founder-led sales to having a sales team or a business development team. And so that's where we step in, because when you're trying to scale, it can be really difficult to commit to a full-time role. Whether it's a salesperson, a sales manager, or a director of business development, it's not always in the budget. And so having fractional assistance in those areas can be invaluable to a small business, medium-sized business that's looking to scale.
Fractional is something that I've heard a lot as of late. Fractional CFOs, fractional CEOs, fractional. And is that and I'm looking at this, is it a chicken and egg scenario? Is it something because we have seen post-COVID a lot of leaned down companies, so there's a lot of great talent out there looking for opportunity? Or is it that because we have a lot of startups that are looking? Like, why it now? Like, this is just something I've seen a lot of as of late.
I would say the short answer to that question is yes, to both of those questions. The reality is there is a ton of talent out there. And I think a lot of very talented, very experienced individuals have come through a period in their career where they may have been with one organization for a very long time. And then something like COVID or even, our local economy, we've seen the cycles of oil and gas over the years. And so they're just not so comfortable relying on the stability of a career with one organization anymore. And they want to have a bit more autonomy. And so they have a lot of value to deliver. And so they decide that they're going to deliver that to a number of clients rather than one single employer. And so the upshot of that is that those businesses can benefit. Now, the other side of that is there are a lot of startups. The tech and industrial economic atmosphere in Alberta is extremely robust. It's thriving. And a lot of people are starting businesses. They're innovating. They're creating incredible technologies and services. And there's a real gap in there where maybe they were a solopreneur and now they've got a business that's generating great revenue, and they're starting to add operational people. They're adding administrative people, and then they decide that it's now time to add business development people because the leader of the organization doesn't have time to devote himself to that anymore. He needs to be a leader and a visionary. So the boots on the ground business development is very time consuming, and he or she doesn't have the time for that anymore.
Okay. Now I'm going to ask entrepreneurs tend to be very risk ready. Whereas when you take structured CFO, CEO, somebody with those type of credentials, they've gone through university. They've had employment. They've had the golden ticket. How do you take somebody that hasn't had the risk of entrepreneurship and instill risk tolerance in that mindset? And then how do you take somebody over here that lives in high risk, fly by the seat of their pants, and instill structure?
That's a really good question. And I don't know that I have a great answer for that. I think it's trial and error. I think if you look at the number of people who have been employees, have had a career, who have become entrepreneurs, and subsequently go back to being employees, the number is very high. And I think the success rate is also very high. Many people go through that cycle several times before they hit on something that is a successful way of doing business or a successful way of offering their services, or just that eureka moment where they have the idea that they can monetize. But and I'm the first one to say there's no shame in trying something and saying, okay, you know what, I tried this, it didn't work out, I'm going to go back, I'm going to pay the bills, keep the lights on for however long, and then I'm going to try something again. And many times, it's a successful series of events that ultimately leads them to their end goal.
Well, and what is it? I did not find 99 ways the light bulb failed, right? I found 99 ways it did not work, right? Mm-hmm. So, and I think that we forget that business is evolution. The only thing you can count on in business is that you can't count on anything. It's always evolving. SOPs, doing the basic handoff. So we talked about sales-led leadership doing the sales, right? And the difference between working on a business versus working in a business. And we see this in every industry, like real estate. If you're not working on your business, you are going to get into that roller coaster cycle of, I got a sale and then it's crickets. I got another sale and then it's crickets, right? So you're going through this up and down. Whereas when you work on your business, and that's really, I think, where fractional leadership comes in play, is keeping the entrepreneurs and small businesses to building their business, not just closing the next sale. Walk me through how you get people to move their eyesight away from just what's right here, right in front of them, right, to looking, further down the road, building.
I think that's a great example. I think when you look at the life cycle of an entrepreneur, they start out and they're 100% business development. They're selling constantly. They're telling everyone what they do. They're constantly looking for opportunities. But suddenly success happens and they get an opportunity, or they get a multitude of opportunities, and then they start, as you mentioned, working in the business. And so suddenly they're working operationally. Maybe you have a flower shop and suddenly you're putting together orders and you're helping shipping them out. Or maybe it's an apparel store and you're doing all of the shipping. So you're working in the business, and that's great as long as you have those sources of revenue, those clients, those sales. But what happens when you've spent the last 6 months working in the business and suddenly those revenue sources dry up? The cycle has to start all over again. And anyone that knows anything about business development or sales knows that it's not a faucet or a switch that you can turn on and off. It takes a long time, in many cases, to ramp that up. So you need that constant sort of pressure, that constant feeding the pipeline, as it were. And so having that, even fractionally, having that ongoing constant assistance in business development can be critical, so that you don't have those highs and lows between, revenue and finding revenue.
Over the lifespan of your career, what are some of the biggest changes that we've seen in attracting business and managing business that can be a make or break for entrepreneurs and small businesses?
I think a couple of things. I think the biggest thing we've seen is the new technology that's available. And of course, AI is the common buzzword, but there's a lot more nuts and bolts technology that's available for small businesses that is just completely underutilized. One of the things that often surprises me when I talk to small and medium-sized businesses, we talk about their sales cycle, we talk about how they get sales, how they grow sales, and I ask them, what are you using for a CRM tool or customer relationship management tool? And after the initial confusion wears off and I explain to them what that is, many people know, but many people don't. They're like, well, I've always just tracked my contacts in Outlook, or I've tracked my contacts with a spreadsheet, or any number of stopgap tools that they've used. And so I explained to them, one that I'm very familiar with and I work with a lot is HubSpot.
Yep.
And for me, it's a game changer.
Yep.
And one of the things that I love telling entrepreneurs and small business people, even people that are in the job search market, you can get HubSpot for free.
Yep.
And you get that free version, you create an account, you link it to your email, and then you just start keeping a record of all of these contacts, all of your interactions with them, and then the evolution to using that as a business tool just makes so much sense. And it can be a real game changer for people to have a way to track the relationship with anyone they've spoken to.
Yep.
Even just...
You can even, I think that if more people thought of AI instead of artificial intelligence, look at it as automation intelligence. So that's all AI is understanding the automation and the language that goes in. You still have to feed it. You have to feed it the right prompts. You have to put the right triggers in place. But you can take HubSpot, you can take Salesforce, any of these primary CRMs. I'm on Go High Level. And any of these, you can actually even sync your notifications on your Instagram in and have a whole response things. Now there's programs like ManyChat, and they already have the whole system. But if you get in and you actually understand it, you do not have to know how to program it, but you have to understand how it moves.
I'm going to just interject there for all of the AI savvy listeners out there. It's really great to differentiate between automation and artificial intelligence.
Yes, I agree. I agree.
And I'll give you a perfect example of that. And one of the things that you're talking about, you can set up a chatbot on your website that has a number of canned responses and a number of if-then scenarios that automatically feed into a sequence, hence the term automation.
Correct.
When you implement something like an AI tool, then it uses a large language model and it interacts.
Yes. And it goes online and it learns. Like you can, like I know that through the platform I use, we went in and we took 2 different sites that are large, they are chatbot design sites. And actually that's what our chatbot learned from. I just think that a lot of people think it's magic. And AI is not magic. None of this is magic. And I think it's the biggest challenge for small business or startup leaders is understanding the systems, because without systems, it will all fall apart.
I'd agree with that 100%. And I think another gap for people is their IT infrastructure. You know, so often we try to do everything ourselves. And especially when we're, a solopreneur, we're founding a startup, a small business, we bootstrap everything. Unless we have very deep pockets, we try to be thrifty, we try to save money where we can. And IT is a great example of that. People will say, you know what, I can get this set up myself. I can call somebody when it breaks if I need to. I can Google it and try to fix it. But the IT and cybersecurity world is so complicated to navigate these days. It is a huge risk for any business not to take IT and cybersecurity seriously.
I would agree.
And 1 in 4 businesses that have a cyber attack fail completely. So it's a shocking number, but it's something that you need to take seriously. And so many people, it's like playing Russian roulette. They haven't had one yet, and the conclusion that they draw is that they will never have one. But oftentimes, it's just a matter of time. And so unfortunately, you need to have secure systems, you need to have multi-factor authentication, you need to have redundant backups for your information, and you need to have it locked down. And if you don't have the IT expertise, then you need to consult someone who does. And that's where all your other systems tie in as well. Because the key is to growing your business is keeping track of your information. But the more information you keep track of, the more risk you have.
Exactly.
And you become reliant on that information. And your customers or clients rely on you to keep that information secure.
Yeah.
And so it's a huge vulnerability, and I can't emphasize enough the importance of having good security, good advice when it comes to IT and cybersecurity.
Okay, so we had this talk then, and this is so off topic, but now I'm curious.
We've gone down a rabbit hole.
We've gone down a rabbit hole. And the only reason I said automation versus artificial is I was really trying to simplify, because I was trying to explain to somebody the other day, and just even setting up a new speaker profile, it has to go like a 7-step process to ensure that it's in every spot. So the tags are reading, so the emails can go out the right way, so everything can happen, so you can nurture that audience. So that's why this is because I'm married to a very big 3,000 foot, and I'm always trying to pull them down, going, wait, there's a system for this. There's a system for this. When we look at this, everything more and more is becoming systems that we subscribe to, like Keep, like Salesforce, Google, Microsoft. We're subscribing to all these tools. We're paying on a monthly, which means we are exposed. The only way not to be exposed is to have everything completely autonomous within your own server. And even that can still be hacked. So that, I mean, all these online products, even HubSpot. HubSpot is a third-party product. Is there any, like, do these IT things work with even if your entire company is based on a third-party product?
100%. And in fact,
Yeah.
I would submit that for a long time, people believed the way to ultimate security was having their own dedicated servers. But the reality is, for you to have the expertise to secure your own physical hardware would cost you so much more than the monthly subscription fee to a third-party cloud-based software. And then you still have to front the cost of that hardware. So, you think about all of the security around these services, it's incredible. But I mentioned this before, and I want to say it again because it astounds me the number of people that aren't using it. Multi-factor authentication, and you're probably familiar with it.
Yep.
Maybe you have an app on your phone that
Yep.
generates a code. Maybe you get a text with a code when you try to sign into something. That is one of the single most effective ways to prevent yourself from being hacked, corrupted,
Yeah.
however you want to call it. Having that multi-factor authentication on every service you have that allows it.
And if somebody you want to know but don't really know sends you a message on your Instagram, said, "Hey, I need you to help me. I've been locked out of my account." That's a bot, folks. It's coming for you. It's coming for you. I find out everything the hard way. My kids are like, "Mom, don't touch that, Mom." So, because I want to trust everybody. Let's go back to the services you provide, because we have gone down a little bit down the rabbit hole, but these are all very important things, because I notice that a lot of people will be jumping back and forth between working for a company and working for themselves. And in fact, the new studies show that our young people will be changing every 2 years, 8 months is the statistical average right now. So in knowing that we'll be going back and forth, and there's a lot of variables in our income earning spaces, what is the best thing somebody can do as an entrepreneur to get their business towards sellable, scalable, and sustainable?
So one of these lessons I learned the hard way, but there's a few things. And we've already touched on, having that fractional business development, that IT support. But I would also say, make sure you have, if you're not ready to commit to a fractional CFO, make sure you have an amazing accountant and trust them like a business partner. Because unless your business is accounting, there is no way you can possibly be as skilled or as practical about the financial aspects of your business as an accountant. And I learned that the hard way. A number of years ago, I started my own business. I did very well. I was living in Mexico at the time. I was operating my business remotely. And this is long before remote work was the ubiquitous form of work that it is today. But I was managing my business in Calgary, and I made so many missteps simply because I didn't have good financial advice from a trusted accountant who I could regard as a trusted advisor or a business partner. And in retrospect, for me, that would be the single greatest thing. Now I have that. I'm grateful for that. But if I had to do it over, that's what I would have done, like right out of the gate, is get that advice, set things up correctly, and trust the people who are the specialists in the areas that they operate in.
Set your bench up. Make sure, because nobody goes to a playoff or a Super Bowl or whatever with just themselves. You always need your team, right? And right now, like I said, where a lot of people are bootstrapping, we know what the statistical averages are. We know that, what is it? 80% of all entrepreneurs will, they're capped at $500,000 a year. That's where it's at. So knowing your bench, making sure that you've got your finances in order. What do you think is there a course, a speaker, a book that is good for small businesses and entrepreneurs to invest a little time in that will help them better identify the blind spots so they don't get stuck?
So one of the things that I would say, and there are many courses, many books, many speakers out there, and depending on your area of interest, they will all provide value to varying degrees. But one of the things that I've learned, and the Petroleum Club is a great example of this, is join a professional group of some kind. And because that peer support network is invaluable. You will gain so much insight, you will gain so much support, and the Petroleum Club provides a host of learning opportunities. The Chamber is another, Platform Calgary is another. Many of these organizations have learning opportunities that range from free to very economical to sometimes on the higher end, but you really can determine based on your budget what fits best for you and take advantage of all of those opportunities. The events that you attend, you'll be exposed to speakers you've never heard of. You'll be exposed to other business owners, other entrepreneurs, other educated individuals that can provide insight, expertise, and even connections to other people that can provide those same things. So take advantage of those professional organizations.
So with Stacked Consulting and Red Fox, what is the best way for an entrepreneur or small business to approach so that they have the best results?
To approach
Stacked and Red Fox.
Okay,
how do we do this?
So Stacked Consulting is a little clarification on that. So Stacked Consulting is an enterprise consulting organization that provides corporate strategy and a number of services around corporate strategy. And the role that I have with Stacked Consulting is as their Director of Business Development, and that is a fractional role. And that's a great example of an organization they've been around for 10 years. March 1st is their 10-year anniversary. And they have grown primarily through their excellent reputation and their organic connections. They've been in the industry for many years, long before they founded Stacked. And so they have a lot of expertise, connections, experience, and throughout that 10 years, they've grown that way. And it's been organic and it's been steady, but they came to the conclusion that they wanted to diversify and they wanted to scale. And so last September, they brought me in as their Director of Business Development so that they could have someone who was focused entirely on growing the business rather than working in it. Because everyone on the team is a consultant of some kind, except for me. A corporate consultant, I should say. Obviously, I consult in business development, but my role for them is to focus entirely on growing the business. Because what would happen with them is they would work on business development, and as soon as they have a client or a new project, then all of their team is devoted to those various projects. Yeah. And then the intensity or the focus comes away from the business development, as it should. You want your team, your operational team, to be focused on delivering value to your clients. But when those projects end, then there's a gap when you start to work on business development again.
Yes, and that's that roller coaster. So it's smoothing out the ups and downs and creating consistency. And again, folks, sellable, scalable, and sustainable. Get your systems in place so you have sustainability. Get your team in place so you can have scalability. And you know what? Sellable, that's, if you're listening to this, you probably already have something awesome. So.
Right. That's the key. And I love what you're talking about when you're talking about flattening those, something that we've heard a lot since COVID is flatten the curve, right? We all know what that means.
Yeah.
And, that's what we want. Feast or famine is something that every entrepreneur knows. And that's what we want to avoid. We want it to be sustainable. We don't want you to have to work 20-hour days and then suddenly have nothing to do. We want you to be able to, have that quality of life, but also have a sustainable business that grows consistently, that you can scale. And if that's your desire, eventually exit the business because someone else sees the value in it. And, it's not just enough that we know the value that we offer. If we're looking for an exit at some point, we need to be able to demonstrate that value to others.
That is so well put. Simply put, folks, we know you're great. You know you're great. Your mother knows you're great. But you got to have the systems. You got to have everything documented so that when you get ready to exit, you got something to sell.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Russ.
Thank you so much, Kim.
Thank you for joining us today on the Back to Business podcast. Be sure to visit calpeteclub.com, CALPETECLUB.com, to find out more about upcoming events, networking opportunities, and membership. If you are not already a valued member at the CPC, where we are proudly connecting and supporting Calgary's business leaders.